Hi, and welcome to Around South Jersey. I'm your host tonight, Newell Branin, in for Jim Quinn. I'm joined by fellow members of the Millville Rescue Squad alumni. I have Kurt Haywood, fellow life member, Dwayne Russick, and John Feldis, the current EMS chief of the Millville Fire Department. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Alumni Association's event that's coming up on June 15th. We are dedicating a plaque in honor of the former members at the former location that you see on the back of us, 500 Columbia Avenue. And but we're going to have some stories about our time in the squad. We range from the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s up to current. So Kurt, you want to give us some history on some of the beginnings of the actual rescue squad at the American Legion?
Yes. Actually, the EMS in Millville actually started by the Millville Hospital. They had owned an ambulance, and they provided ambulance service for the citizens. And what they would do, if an orderly was available, they would use the orderly to drive the ambulance to wherever the call was. If it wasn't available, they had the arrangement with a local taxi cab company, whereas the hospital didn't have anybody available. They would call the taxi cab company. The owner would dispatch a driver to drive the ambulance to the scene. And the response time, to say the least, was horrible, of course.
Right, and that was pretty much just picking them up. That was no treatment or anything.
Yes, picking them up.
Yeah.
Yes, and I know, talking from my parents, they would tell me stories where back in the day, if they had an accident somewhere, usually the bystanders would just pick the people up and take them to the hospital via car.
Wow, that's pretty crazy compared to what we've done and what's going on now. And then what happened after that?
Well, what happened after that? Harry Risley, prominently known Millville gentleman. He lived out on the corner of Circle Drive and Main Street, and his neighbor that lived behind him had a heart attack. So the neighbor's family called Harry to come over and give assistance. So Harry attempted to get a hold of the ambulance, couldn't get a hold of the ambulance because they didn't have a driver. And then he started calling the local doctors, and none of them were available, and the man passed. So Harry vowed that he was going to do something about it, change the system with the ambulance service in Millville. So what he did, he's a member of the American Legion. What he did, he went to the Legion because they were all civic-minded men,
Right.
War veterans. And they developed a committee, and the committee was headed by a guy by the name of Walt Mullen. He was a chairman to raise the funds to buy a new ambulance to replace the 1948 ambulance the hospital had.
And this is around 1958 or 1956-ish,
56-ish.
right? Yeah. So about
And-
8-year-old ambulance is probably not taken care of,
Right,
kept
exactly.
outside.
And what he did, he started the fundraising, and Mr. Risley went to Frank Wheaton Sr. and asked if he could help out with the money, and he obliged them. And they raised dollar for dollar, and they were able to raise enough funds to buy a new ambulance in '58. But prior to that, he bought the ambulance off the hospital for $1, and he parked it in front of his house, and his friends and neighbors ran a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week ambulance service from in front of his house.
From his house on East Main Circle Drive.
Yes. And as time went on, they got the funds, they got the ambulance, and a local mason built the building, Norm Samino. And they built a one-bay garage with a side office. And over the years, it just expanded.
There's the building,
There's
the first
the picture.
building.
And as Millville grown, so did the rest of the ambulance corps. And it wound up being a 5-bay building. They had a rec room in there, a radio room, and a rec room, or a bunk room.
Sleeping quarters,
Sleeping
yep.
quarters. And toward the late 60s, early 70s, they outgrew that. So they went looking for a new building, and the city got involved. Michael Scarides was a tax assessor, and the mayor was Peak. They went looking, and right around the corner from the Legion was the old Maury building, which was a dealership, a Chevrolet Buick dealership, and that was abandoned. So they brokered a deal with them back in March of 1973, and they got the building for like $26,000.
The city did.
The city did.
Right.
It's a city-owned building. So from March to October, the membership refurbished the whole inside of it. And we moved over there, and then come 74, they dedicated the building. June 15th, 1974, they dedicated the building.
And 50 years later, we're going to dedicate the plaque
Rededicate a plaque, yes.
this month. So when did you join?
November 1973.
So right before the new building.
Well, they
In the
trans...
middle of moving into the new building,
Exactly,
but before it was dedicated.
yes.
So you have all the knowledge of that event and that happening.
Yeah. You could say that.
So yeah, when we started realizing that it was the 50th anniversary was coming up, and Kurt mentioned about doing something, I had no idea, because I wasn't there. And it was well before my time, and Kurt started giving us all the information, and it was like, you were there, you know it. So he was the one that spearheaded getting us together and doing something. So then what else happened once we got to that point?
Well, how it started, I moved out of Millville 22 years ago, and I always come back to Millville to see my family. And like all of us, we always go by the squad building for the memories of it all. And I heard that the building was being torn down because it was in real bad shape. And it took a while to tear the building down because apparently it had some problems with some hazardous material in there.
Yeah.
And another contractor came in to finish it out. So back in October of last year, I came up Vine Street, was going to make my right onto Columbia Avenue, and there was nothing there.
It was gone.
Our beautiful building was totally gone.
Yep.
Excuse me. So I pulled across the street, pulled in the YMCA parking lot, and I sat there for a while, and I just saw the workers out there putting topsoil down and grass seed down. And I got thinking, is this it? This is 59 years of American Legion Rescue Squad, and then Millville Rescue Squad. It's just going to disappear from memory, and that's a big part of Millville's history. So I got thinking, to wake up the next morning, so I emailed the mayor at the time and told her who I was, what my intentions are, and I got a positive response back from her within like 2 hours. So throughout the day, I found out that Chief Feltz and Chief Lippincott of the Millville Fire Department apparently had spoken to her. So they both called me and said they will go for a plaque, and it would have to be recessed into the parking sidewalk because they're going to sell the property itself. So we couldn't erect a big post
Right.
and sign up there.
Yeah. Yeah, over our planning, we had different ideas of either having a
Numerous ideas.
granite monument, a roadside sign, historic marker, but we went with a bronze plaque.
And it's beautiful.
And yeah, it's going to be revealed on the 15th. So we invite everybody out to see it June 15th at 3 p.m. You see our poster there. We're still raising money, so if you want to scan that QR code there or contact us, our information's on there, or Kurt's information's on there. You can email him or contact any of us, and we can direct you to the right spot to make your donation to our fund. But we'll also be collecting it on the day of the event as well.
Yes.
So you joined in 73.
Yes.
Dwayne, when did you join?
September 1981.
1981. So we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit. When did you join?
1977.
So 77. Okay, so we can go back. And we're missing a member of our committee, who's Paul Williams, who's ill today, but he also joined near oh no, he was later. That's right.
82.
82. That's right.
February of 82.
That's
I'll
right.
never forget that day.
Yeah, you won't. That's right. Story for another time, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So in your time, what was going on then? We were in the building.
I came into the rescue squad. It was the American Legion Rescue Squad at the time, and I came in during that 1977-78 period. Went to EMT school and then continued to be there for a while. And the place was pretty well established then, and things were moving along pretty good. Just to step back in history a little bit, my father was one of the charter members of the American Legion Rescue Squad, and so there are times when I used to go with him over there,
Right.
and kind of got my feet wet in it a little bit, just not doing anything other than just hanging out there, and eventually said, hey, I really want to do this, and then I started watching the shows, the emergency and the reruns and stuff, and
Oh yeah.
I said, I really want to be a paramedic someday. So I did accomplish that.
Did that? That's right.
Worked for 30 years as a paramedic, and then came back to the city to start and run the Millville EMS from the fire department. So it's been a good turnaround for me, and it's a good opportunity. Work with a lot of good people there, and work with Chief Lippincott on things that are going on there.
Yeah.
And he was an old former squad member as well,
That's right.
and he's also a licensed nurse.
Mm-hmm.
So he understands the business. And so from there, we just continue to move forward, establish some education rounds, and made a training academy. We're kind of back in that now, making a state certified or licensed training academy. We hope we get that done soon. Run basic EMT classes there. And so it's kind of been full circle for me, and it's been a good part of my life.
Yep. So when I joined, sorry, skipping
That's okay.
Dwayne, but when I joined in 1986, March of '86, John was my chief, and Mike Lippincott was the captain of the squad then. So and then you guys were both the president and vice president, and it was combined. Admin and line officers were together still, but later this split. But so it's pretty cool that you're now working together again, and back in public safety and emergency services. But so yeah, Dwayne. So in early '80s, what was going on then?
Yeah, well, they were just beginning the EMT classes back then, so it might have been like the second class.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was at the very beginning, so it was a new venture, but it was a lot of fun. Also, note that a lot of our former members went on to have careers, such as yourself, dispatch, EMTs, medics.
Yeah,
so a lot of
we
guys
have
who were
a lot.
started there as volunteer had really, or some police, but public
Yeah.
service. A lot of guys have gotten into it, so it's pretty interesting. Where guys' lives have went on from there. One guy, it's kind of funny. The guy that the reason I got involved was kind of simplistic. I used to hang around with Paul Frampus, and who was a member, and was staying at his house one night, and he was already a member, and he says his truck was broke down. He said, "Listen, we got a call tonight. You got to take me in." So, sure enough, a call comes in, and through the blue light on my car, and there was something about the adrenaline rush. I think that hooks you right away, and then you get, So it wasn't long after that I put an application in.
So you were already driving. You didn't ride your bike to a call.
No,
Some people.
No, yeah, like some
Me.
people. Yeah.
Or a moped with a light on your helmet.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
Or
I
sometimes,
wanted to do that though, but
cars would break down. We had to hitch a ride on all calls.
yeah.
Cliff Gilroy and guys like that would pick me up on the way.
I was going to say there was a couple
Steve Salgado.
couple times people got picked up along the way. They knew where to meet somebody that was coming
Stand
in
out.
anyway. Yep. Yep.
That's
So, I blame Dwayne for my life. After I joined the squad, he introduced me to my future wife, who then I have 2 kids from and 2 daughters, and one joined the squad. She was one of the last volunteers at the squad before it went completely paid with no volunteers. They still had a couple volunteer members. So, yeah, I thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's
Nothing
not a
really
problem.
good.
But so I joined in '86. EMTs, were the norm then. You had to be an EMT within a year of your membership. EMT class was held either once or twice a year. And I joined in March, and then my class was in that September. And so when I went, we were just talking about this the other day, when I went to EMT school, it was 120 hours. What was your requirement the first time?
I don't know, but I remember it was $75 for the class.
It was 70, that's right. So the cost is a lot different now. And then, so how many hours are required now for an EMT?
Well, for now, about 256. Mine was 80 when I started.
80, there you go.
And it was free.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was free for me when I joined, or when I went through, because the squad paid for you. But soon after that, we did make a kind of a requirement, like they had to be there for they had to pay for it, be there for 2 years, and then we gave them back the money.
Yeah, it was very similar to what I joined.
It took a lot of logistics to do, but
as soon as I joined, I went started the EMT class right after that. So yeah, it's like. But we got reimbursed, I think, in the end anyway. So
I kind of liked. I got a little worried that I joined so early before an EMT class would have started, because I was like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to do anything. Back then, we normally ran, because there were so many volunteers. We normally ran 4 people to an ambulance. So I was always one of the extra ones, because 2 was only the requirement. So it learned a lot. I learned a lot from March to September, and nobody let you go either. So you're hanging out down the squad, because it was a great place to hang out as a teenager and learn and go on all these emergency calls and use up all the adrenaline, have that rush. But if I was sitting around and somebody came in, and I remember specifically Paul Frampus, he came in and started yelling at me, "What are you doing here? Get out there. We need this." And I had to run out to the ambulance and get everything he said. And I come running in with a handful, and he's like, "That's not it. Go get this." And I had to go find it really quick. And I'm 16, and he's yelling at me, and I don't know what's going on. There's an emergency. And he's like, "Okay, you did good. Put them all back." And that was it. But stuff like that. And then on scenes, you learned. Thanks, George. There's one of a scene post-incident, cleaning up from an accident. And Sean Peak, a good friend of mine in the background. We lost him a few years back. But he was another one that went on to another emergency service. He was a police officer in Bridgeton. But we're going to take a break right now, and we'll come back and hear some more stories and talk about the event that's coming up in June. Thanks.
Many people treat their health like a game. With Complete Care Health Network, it's easy to start your healthcare journey. Just select from our specialties and schedule online, by phone, or on our app. Our entire team communicates with one another, so everyone works together on your total health. Plus, we make it even easier with all of these additional benefits. Level up your health with us. Complete Care Health Network. No games, just great health care for everyone.
More than a century ago, General Tire was born, right here in America. Since then, we've made a name for ourselves by making tires you can depend on. Tires built to handle any road this country can throw at them, and relied on by every kind of driver. So you know that no matter where life takes you, with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield. Those expensive repair bills get paid and at the mechanic of their choice. They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
Protect yourself from the unprecedented rise in cost for parts and repairs. Call now to save money with your price lock guarantee. Call CarShield now.
Call 1-800-890-2387.
Hey, check this out. Hernia repair. Ain't nothing, man. Kidney surgery. That's nothing. Gallbladder removal.
That's nothing. Spinal repair.
I don't see nothing.
Exactly.
Minimally invasive robotic surgery at Inspira Health. Scar so small, it's almost like nothing ever happened.
The most important decisions a family can make are usually made around the kitchen table. At DeMarco Luisi Funeral Home, we believe pre-planning and the difficult decisions you face with the loss of a loved one should also be made around the comfort of a table, like a family. Our friendly, kind, and compassionate staff is committed to helping you get through this most difficult time. In your time of need, trust DeMarco Luisi Funeral Home, Vineland.
Welcome back to Around South Jersey. I am not Jim Quinn. I'm Newell Branin from the Millville Rescue Squad alumni. I'm joined by fellow alumnus Kurt Haywood, Dwayne Russick, and John Feldis. We're talking about our time in the squad that we've had in various time frames, and our event that we're having on June 15th at 3 p.m. at the site of the former Rescue Squad building at 500 Columbia Avenue. But we'll talk more about that as we go along. We were talking about our time that when we were in the squad. As all volunteers, by the way, we were 100% volunteer up until 1996, when a couple EMTs were hired just to fill in some daytime slots when volunteerism was starting to dwindle. But they had volunteers up through the early 2000s, and then now it's all paid. There's not many volunteer EMS services left in the county. There's one that's 100%. A couple others have some that work in with their paid staff. But so going back to what we were talking about when we joined the squad, I was 16 when I joined, and how old were you?
16.
You were 16,
17
and 20. A little bit older, but still in that early age when people were joining, and the average age was probably around 20 or so when I joined. A lot of people were, in their 20s or low 20s, and 4 or 5 years older than me. But as a 16-year-old, I was I was the youngest, and everybody else was a lot older than me. There's a picture from 1974. Mm-hmm. You see anybody you know in there?
All of them.
Where are you at?
That's the regular members.
That's the regular members, not an aide, right? So in the 70s, when you joined as a new member, you were an aide first.
From 16 to 20.
Right. Oh, all the way up till you're 20.
Yes.
So when I joined, they didn't have aides anymore. I had to change the name for various reasons, but you can guess one. But we had an explorer post. So we were explorers and for a time, and then we got rid of that even eventually too, because again, we were lacking volunteers, so we didn't want to necessarily hold back some volunteers. If they could become an EMT, they were an EMT. They just couldn't drive until a certain age because of insurance. But yeah, so we were saying like our average age was really young. When I joined, there was about 45 members on the roster, and like I said, the average age was probably 20 to 22. There was a couple older ones. Some of the life members, the older life members, the older to me, were still somewhat active. Norm Frankel came around, and he was still working. So I saw him and Jimmy Johnson, and there's a couple of the other ones at that time, but can't remember now. But that was, so they were still around, but still there was a lot of younger ones that were still active. And right after, there was a little surge right after I joined, or in a few years after. When I came in, I came in with one other guy. So there was only two of us. That was Gerald Foster, my night. And but within the next couple of years, there was like 5 or 7 at a time were coming in. And we actually raised the membership to 65 and had a waiting list. So I remember when I was becoming an officer, an administrative officer, we had we had a waiting list. We had to call people like a year or 2 after they applied and say, do you still want to be a member? You know, because maybe their friends already joined and, you know, they missed the boat kind of thing. But we still were bringing in members. And then it was probably in the early to mid 90s, we really started feeling the hurt, especially during the day. So we used to have members that were able to leave their job to come to take a call, and that was starting to stop. So we had a couple people like Steve Salgado that was able to. So he was like a regular during the day to come take a call. My job, I worked night shift when I started where I was, or where I still am. So I was there sometimes during the day. So it was a lot of times it was me and Steve Salgado taking daytime calls, and that was it. And it was really weird for us to only have 2 people on an ambulance for a call, because a lot of times we'd have a call and there'd be 5 or 6 people sitting at the building, and the senior person would have to pick their crew, 4 people to go on the call, and then 2 or 3 got left behind. Wait for the next one, you know, the big one. You know, and that just meant if an accident went out, they got the guy in the rescue truck, and, you know, they didn't have to take the ambulance. But, and speaking of that, so we were talking about what equipment we had. So when I joined, just talking about rigs or vehicle equipment that we had, we had 4 ambulances and an off-road rescue truck. It's 9824, or 64 Jeep Willys.
Something back around then.
There was a lot of modifications done to it, and then
cracker box back then.
Yeah, that's right. But that was my favorite unit that we had. But this is similar to the equipment that was there when I joined. Actually, it's almost exactly it. So on the left, we're talking about 9829 was a Braun, and we had 26, 27, and 28. And then 9824 was the off-road rescue on the right. And 9821 was our regular rescue, or vehicle rescue. I guess today might be kind of considered a heavy rescue, but and then beyond that was 9823. Was that 23? Okay. So that was parked out back when I joined. So that was no longer part of the inside.
Yeah, we had a lot of trouble with the hydraulics on that at one point. They weren't worthwhile fixing it.
And so our other rescue truck, 9821, was replaced by another one, and then this one was the last one that the squad had leading up into the 90s. And our boats, we had 2 boats when I joined, 9825, this 14-foot Boston Whaler. It was my favorite. I'm not a mariner or a captain of any sort, but I would love to take this out before there was regulations of having to have a boat license. But I took this out probably couple summers every Saturday. Every Saturday I would take it out by myself. Maybe if somebody else wanted to go, but I was learning it, I'd take it out and ride up and down the Morris River, at least to the Morristown Bridge and back. A couple of times I took it to the mouth of the bay and decided that wasn't a good idea, even on the calmest days, and turned around right quick and came back. But never could work getting back it down the ramp. So I'd always have to manually unhook it and then walk it down the ramp. Disconnect it, put the boat, tie it to the dock, and then walk the trailer back up to the ambulance or the vehicle, whatever I was using, which was most of the time 9824, because again, that was my favorite. And you see in the back there to the left, near the tower, was 9825A. It was an aluminum boat. And I remember hearing Keith Mitchell on the radio one day, and the weather wasn't too good, and he was out on the lake, and it was a call. There was a rescue, and the incident was over, but I think he was trying to get back in, or maybe he had the patient on board, but that boat was taking on water, so he was screaming for help, and he was in the middle of Union Lake, so. 9824, on the other hand, the boat on the right, the Boston Whaler, that could fill up with water and have 4 people in it and it wouldn't sink. So, that's why I like going on it by myself. I had no concern about having a problem unless I went overboard. But the picture that's in our background now, that's a little bit before, I believe that's around 1984-ish, or maybe a little bit earlier, because there's a couple units missing, and then on the right-hand side, over this way, is this Suburban. So that was 9829.
Yeah,
right?
well, I'm assuming that's pre-1988 because our sign had American Legion Rescue
Oh, yes.
Squad on
It was definitely before that. So it's before me joining,
Right.
because that Suburban was gone when I joined.
Right.
So that was, and the Brawl in 9829 was brand new, and I believe that was purchased in 86, maybe 85.
Maybe 85.
Yeah. So right before I was in the early 88 or early 86. So, but everything else is the same though from when I joined, or when I was a member. Did you see the Brawl? I'm sorry, the Suburban when you were?
Yeah, the Suburban, we still had it when I joined, and then we replaced it. I think 9829 was the Braun, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was the only vehicle that ever had a name on it. We
Well,
dedicated
there was two of them eventually.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first one.
So
was
the first one was Donna. Yeah, Satterley, right?
Who, if I'm not mistaken, did a lot of fundraisers.
Yes.
Yep.
For the rescue squad back in the day. She's very instrumental in helping us with our fundraisers. A very good friend to the Millville Rescue Squad.
Absolutely, yeah. So one thing to point out with the fundraising and stuff, when we were active, when we were the members, and it was all volunteers, it was, as I said a few times, 100% volunteer, and it was 100% citizen funded. We weren't a regular city department. We were a private agency that provided ambulance calls for Millville. We kind of like a quasi, city department, but not necessarily directly run. Our operation wasn't funded. We got donations from the city, but that was always, whether the budget allowed it or not. It wasn't necessarily a city department budget.
The initial fundraisers, if I'm not mistaken, we were standing out with the boots,
Yes.
collecting at the corner Second and Broad. I think it might have been Buckshooting,
Cedarville
Road.
Mm-hmm. Which is a favorite spot still.
Yeah,
Everybody's
there's
there.
still some companies that do it there. Until we came up with the mailer fundraiser, I think was the one that really boosted our fundraising income.
Yeah, so we did that every late fall, late summer, early fall.
Summer, yeah.
And that was always a big deal because, again, to save money, we had them printed up, but we stuffed them.
all.
So we had a stuffing party. So we folded the papers, stuffed them in the envelopes, sealed them, put the labels on them, and sent them out. Until some person decided to buy an address list and get a company to do that, and that was when I was
It might
president.
have been you or Frampus. It
wasn't me.
It might have been Frampus that came up with the idea.
Well, I know it was done when I was president, and I remember working with the list because trying to narrow down because we covered Millville and Cumberland and Port Elizabeth at the time, and trying to separate them because mailing lists are by zip code.
All right.
And Millville zip code goes into Vineland, goes out into Fairfield Township, Deerfield Township, and trying to limit that because we didn't want to step on anybody else's toes. But then also trying to include Cumberland and Port Elizabeth. That was also difficult. And then people don't have street addresses at the time. It was before 911. Right. So trying to get those addresses and figure that all out, that was hard. I know we have a few people watching, but one of our former members, Tom Clifton, is watching, and he says, "Hi, Kurt," and he says he'll never forget being a member of the squad because it made a difference, and he enjoyed every minute of it.
I'd like to let the people know we did it because we loved our city.
Yeah.
And we didn't go there for self-recognition or anything like that. And the city loved us back. The citizens of Millville loved us back. I can remember numerous times during the day, during the weekend, we would have a call, and like the next day the family came in and gave us a check. Thank you for helping my family member out. I can remember on Sundays, Belzer's Bakery used to bring donuts to us. Mulford's used to supply the Sunday work crew dinners all day long.
Yep.
We was well respected back in them days. I don't know about now, the days, how it works in Millville.
Well, it's a whole different world. I mean,
Whole different world,
still, you know.
but they really loved us, and we loved the citizens, and we done what we did. It took all the training, and we were away from our families for hours on end. And
holidays.
Holidays, night duties, holiday duties, and we done it to help. That's the main objective.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it was it sounds cliche and it's funny, but one of the questions that was always asked of a new member when they did the interview committee came to your house and would interview. Paul Williams was the only one that came to my house, but kind of knew him from down the street. But the question that they asked you is, why do you want to be a member? You know, be honest. Is it just to hang out? Is it whatever? And my answer, and I'm sure everybody else's common answer, was to help people. That was for real. That was the reason. And it's sort of like John when it was a little bit later, and definitely in reruns. But I remember when I was little, I watched him first run, but I watched Emergency. I had Tonka trucks that were emergency-like vehicles. You know, I had a fire truck and an ambulance, and when I was really little, so that was when I watched it first, because early '70s was when it was first run. But it was rerun for a while, so I watched it all the time. And then when I was younger, my older sister, my only sister, was dating someone on the squad, and I saw him go on calls with the blue light, and I was like, that's pretty cool. I want to do that, because you didn't see that in Emergency. They were paid. They went there and did their shift, and so there was a little bit more that we had different than that, and so that was pretty cool. And then Paul Williams lived down the street from me, so I would see him fly down the road with his blue light, and I'm like, I want to do that. And then also when I started to be allowed to ride my bike off the block, I would hear the sirens, either the building siren for the all-call for the squad or the fire department, and I lived on the west side, so I would drive to, because I couldn't cross Main or I couldn't cross Brandorf Avenue, I'd go to the corner of Brandorf Avenue and wait for whatever was coming on the call and follow them to a call. So that was me. That was what got me into it. But it was obviously family, and you had a friend. What got you into it?
Civic duty. I loved. I was 16 years old. I was proud of Millville. It was my hometown, my parents' hometown, and I knew the squad was special, and I wanted to be a part of that. And the way to help is to join and help the citizens. That was the whole thing. It wasn't for my own glory; it's to help others.
Right, and that again, that's what full circle, right? That's what it comes down to. So,
a lot of pride, belonging to first ALRS and then Millville Rescue. There was something that, and we all strived to. We wanted to be the best. We wanted to be the best in the county, and whether it was, EMS, obviously first, we wanted our patient care to be the most important thing. But we took that level to against the fire department when we would have our tug of war.
Absolutely, yeah. We should have brought some of those pictures.
Yeah, which it seems like every year we lost to these guys, but we were out there trying every year. And I think the one thing that as we sit around, the one thing that I think was unexpected, but that I'm very proud of, and is that we've achieved. We became literally lifelong friends. Like
absolutely.
I used the phrase, "We grew up there," and we did. And we're all secondary family. It was when we were away from our family, we were still with family. I don't think we realized at the time, when we were doing what we were doing. Yeah. How it would impact our future and our friendships. Like I said, there's not a lot of groups that you see that neighbor John now.
Right.
I was just, it's like, and he stops what we talking about, but it's like you're talking to a brother or a relative, people that you know, and and that's something you can't. Whoever thought that we'd be still doing this. 40 years later or longer as it would be, you know. So I think that's something that's really pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely. Yeah, that was, you know, when we were saying being taken away from our family, we were still with people that we cared for, or, you know, eventually did, because we, like you were saying, we didn't really realize it then at the time. We sort of did, but not as, you know, the whole level that it was. And then now, you know, we're hanging out. We have a yearly get together. We want to call it a get together. It's not really a reunion because some people still work together. We're still, you know, some people are still young, and it's not like a 35-year reunion or anything, but it is for some people, you know. Couple was not this year's, but last year's. Kurt came back to, didn't know that was happening, and showed up, and it was like, you know, wow, you know, it's Kurt. I haven't seen Kurt Haywood in, you know, 25 years, and there he is, and now we see every 2 weeks.
Too much. I just want to throw one thing out here. I'm not patting ourselves on our backs, but it really takes a special kind of person to be in emergency services.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because when they call us, when a family member calls us, it's not at their best of time.
Right. It's definitely.
And we all handle, you know, seeing the trauma our own different ways. But the EMTs, fire department, police department, emergency services, thank them when you see them.
Absolutely.
Because people, the average citizen doesn't realize what them people have been through, what have happened, and what they see. And they got to live with that.
Yep. Yeah,
And,
that's definitely.
Thank goodness, you know, after 50-some years, I still remember some incidents and calls that really got to me, but...
Yeah, well, it'll stick with you. They don't go away, but you deal with, everybody
But
deals
it
with
takes
it
a
a certain
special
way.
person
Yep.
to be in emergency services.
Yep, that's for sure. All right, on that note, we'll take a break right now, and we'll be back with Around South Jersey in a moment.
At Mintz Insurance, we're proud to have been serving our customers for nearly 80 years, offering 30 different insurance products for your auto, home, and business. And to help ensure that you're getting the best rates possible, we give you up to 3 quotes for every policy, so you can choose what's right for you. At Mintz, we're part of the community, local representatives, supporting events, and proud of it. It's part of who we are. Mintz Insurance. Call today and find out how we can help you save on insurance, or visit us at mintzinsurance.com.
How'd it happen?
She showed up dead on arrival.
This never gets easier.
It does when you call CarShield before your car breaks down. Look at these prices. The camshaft, transmission, engine.
Don't people know? A plan through CarShield could protect up to 5,000 parts and systems.
You hate to see it.
An out-of-warranty car is going to break down eventually.
Right, which is why they need a plan through CarShield. Those expensive repair bills get paid and at the mechanic of their choice. They're notifying the family.
Poor guy. He doesn't even know what's coming.
Another victim of senselessly expensive repair bills. Can't save them all.
But we can keep trying. Didn't have to end this way. If he'd have just called CarShield before his car broke down.
Exactly.
Protect yourself from the unprecedented rise in cost for parts and repairs. Call now to save money with your price lock guarantee. Call CarShield now.
Call 1-800-890-2387.
Many people treat their health like a game. With the Complete Care Health Network, it's easy to start your healthcare journey. Our mental health services focus on the emotions and behaviors that affect your overall well-being and features psychiatric, counseling, and addiction services, including our exclusive Fresh Start program, designed to help combat the opioid epidemic in our communities, plus all the other specialties you expect from Complete Care. Level up your health with us. The Complete Care Health Network. No games, just great healthcare for everyone.
Hey, check this out. Hernia repair. Ain't nothing, man. Kidney surgery. That's nothing. Gallbladder removal.
That's nothing. Spinal repair.
I don't see nothing.
Exactly.
Minimally invasive robotic surgery at Inspira Health. Scar so small, it's almost like nothing ever happened.
Welcome back to Around South Jersey. I'm the host tonight, Newell Branin. I'm joined by fellow Rescue Squad members Kurt Haywood, Dwayne Russick, and John Feldis. We're talking about our time at the Millville Rescue Squad as volunteers, or the American Legion Rescue Squad in the beginning. And we were just talking about our time and our event that we got coming up on June 15th, when we're dedicating a plaque in honor of the former members and memory of the building that we spent a lot of time in, and it was there for 50 years this June 15th. But we're talking about some of our time that we had in the squad, and talking about night duties during the break. So we were all volunteers, but we were required to spend one night a week to man the building. And there was a minimum requirement of 4, maybe 6, depending on the time, how many volunteers we had, members that had to, do your time. And then rotating through the month, we had a Sunday duty, Sunday daytime duty, that some people would hang out, and that's what Kurt was saying before, where Mulfords would help us out with dinner or lunch. So that was great. Or we had leftover Belzers from the day before. If nobody took the good ones yet. But so when I first joined, I was assigned to Wednesday night duty, and my crew chief was Bob Curry, Big Bob Curry, and then Tom Sturgis and Gene Eichelberger, who was one of the younger ones. I saw Tom as a little bit older. Bob was certainly one of the senior members, and then Gene Eichelberger, and then myself. So that made out the 4 on Wednesday nights. But later on, I moved to Saturday nights, and my crew chief was John Feldis. But right, Saturday nights, yeah. Okay. So when did you?
Friday nights.
Friday nights.
And
that was the fun night. Yeah. Oh, Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson,
by the way.
He was the crew chief before we had crew chiefs officially.
So when I came in, Jimmy was a retired life member. He'd come around every once in a while, and he'd come walking in, barreling in, and kind of make his presence known. And I learned who he was really quick. And then he was a sheriff's officer, so I knew him kind of through work. As a county employee, I knew who he was there too. But Dwayne, what was your night duty?
Monday night, Walt Heider was the crew chief. Martin Boguszewski was also on that. I can't tell you who else, but I remember those 2 guys for sure. But it was a.
And when you started, John, when were you?
It was Saturday night.
It was always Saturday night.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, I went to Tuesday for a while when I worked for the city after I left the mall, and but it was a good time. It was a good night.
So
everybody always had a good time on night duty.
So being the new innocent, member that I was, our night duty technically was 11 to 6 or something like that, right? 11 p.m. to 6. I did not know anything else about the squad. I joined on a Tuesday night, and so I set my alarm for Wednesday, and I set the alarm for 10:30. I got up and came riding my bike through, the west side and over Brandorf Avenue, and I had overslept. And also didn't calculate the time that it would take me to ride my bike all the way to the squad, all the way. So I was a couple minutes late for 11 o'clock. And Bob Curry wasn't happy because it was a Wednesday night. He should have been in bed already, but the new guy wasn't there yet, so he was looking for him. And then I quickly learned that you can come in early and go to bed at a normal time. Or hang out and come in really early and hang out. And like you're saying, people would come in on Fridays especially, play some cards, play some pool.
Yes.
When I was there, we had a dartboard.
Darts, yeah.
We had a ping pong table that we can put over top of the pool table. That didn't last long because it would always get broke. But so we had to take care of the pool table. But
there's a lot more to night duty than just going there and sleeping, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because we had to inspect the vehicles,
rig check,
gas them up, clean up some of the buildings, take the trash out, tighten things up,
vacuum the whole carpet, which was half the building.
I don't want the people out there thinking we just go there to sleep.
No,
There's a lot of just
pick up the trash in the whole building, so it was a huge building, and then mop the floor, which was the other half of the building, right? The other half of the floor, kitchen and meeting room.
There's a lot of work involved.
Yep. And if there was a meeting or something, you had to rearrange all the chairs,
Yeah.
pick them up, or put them out if the meeting was coming up. But I knew on Saturday night, that kind of leads me to what you were saying. Is Saturday nights we had a regiment. You know, John came in, put our rig assignments because now when I moved to Saturday, we had probably 8 people on a night duty, and John was a working man and family guy, and he didn't put up with anything on night duty. He came out, wrote the rig assignments, put up the building assignments, and went to bed. And we couldn't, we weren't waking him up. So one day when he wasn't there, because he was sick, legitimately couldn't make it in, and it was very odd because that rarely ever happens. So we went through and we ran the night like we were in boot camp, and did calisthenics and ran and did everything that we were supposed to, as if he was there barking orders at us, which he really didn't bark orders. Again, he just wrote it down and went to bed, and it was our responsibility. He trusted us and knew that we were going to get this stuff done. But there's the other thing I was kind of also leading up to is, and you mentioned too, is when we had so many people staying sometimes, it was, you had 2 full ambulances of 4 crews, 4 people crews, and then the rescue truck that had 2, and sometimes 3 if you could, had another person. And it was crazy. We, for a short time, we didn't know what to do with ourselves because we had so many volunteers, and it was a great thing. And then that went away really quick. We could have had 12 people available on nights, but there was like 1 person or maybe 0 people during the day because of work and stuff. But so that's what kind of led to getting paid EMTs, and that kind of going back just a little bit too. We just touching base on the timeline. We talked. So I joined in '86, and there was no longer any Legion members that were running ambulance calls. There was nobody that was on the American Legion that was running the call. It was really a separate agency then. So there was a move to officially separate from the Legion, and that happened around 1988, a couple years after I joined, and so we became the Millville Rescue Squad then. So we were the American Legion Rescue Squad, and then up through. So and then in 1996 we mentioned that we got our first paid EMTs, and soon after that it was almost all paid 24 hours. There was crews on all the time, and we started taking on other jobs. We were doing transports and contracts with the hospital to kind of fund the agency, and it continued. And then the agency moved to Cedar Street, and then the organization was sold or bought out by Inspira, so that kind of left Millville without a identity, without a EMS service. So John came back, like he said, and came out of the paramedic job and created and helped out making the Millville EMS service.
Got a license and everything, and there's a different breed of people here now. They're all good. I would trust anybody with any of them. They're well trained. They're good. They know their job. They're very busy now. Back during that time when you guys were talking about the early part of that, you're running about 2,000 calls. We're probably hit 9,000 this year.
Yeah.
So we're running pretty constant, and it's just a couple of quick funny stories. Like some of the newer people will sometimes have discussions with me about the olden days, so to say. And they would start out with like, what was it like to feed the horses and all that kind of stuff. So I tell them, and then, but the thing I get the most reaction from is, which is very funny, is I tell them, say, back a long time of years ago, we used to do all this stuff for free, and they're like, wait a minute, what'd you say? I'm like, for free. They're like, what's wrong with you? But in jest,
Right.
But they understand how things have changed. But I was able to live through all of that.
Yeah.
And changes to the current today. And even though, I managed people 30 years ago, it's different than managing people today.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after these messages.
In Cumberland County, let's recycle right. We recycle cardboard, paper, aluminum, tin, and plastics number 1 and 2. Look for the 3-arrow triangle usually on the bottom of the plastic container. The number in the center determines the plastic number. Remember to recycle only number 1 and 2 plastics. Plastic bags, plastic film, hoses, and wires are not recyclable. They can damage sorting equipment and create hazardous working conditions. Don't trash our future. Do the right thing. Remember, reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Many people treat their health like a game. With Complete Care Health Network, it's easy to start your healthcare journey. Just select from our specialties and schedule online, by phone, or on our app. Our entire team communicates with one another, so everyone works together on your total health. Plus, we make it even easier with all of these additional benefits. Level up your health with us. Complete Care Health Network. No games, just great health care for everyone.
All right, welcome back to Around South Jersey. I am not Jim Quinn. I am your host tonight, Newell Branin from the Millville Rescue Squad Alumni. I'm joined by Kurt Haywood, Dwayne Russick, and John Feldis, all fellow members of the Rescue Squad. And we're talking about our time that we've had during when we were active volunteer members of the squad. But also our main point is talking about our event that we have coming up on June 15th at 3 p.m. It's going to be in front of where the old building was at 500 Columbia Avenue. That's where most of us we all spent most of our time there as volunteer members. The building was torn down within the last year or two, and we're going to place a memorial or honor plaque, bronze plaque in the place where it was, right in front of the front door. So we're going to have some refreshments and honored speakers there. We'll have our keynote speaker, Dr. Ed Salmon, who was the mayor at the time of our dedication. So 50 years later to the day, he'll be back and giving us some, hopefully, words of wisdom and talk about when he originally dedicated the building. And then we'll obviously have some more memories we'll talk about. We'll have other members there. We'll invite everybody out. And we still are accepting our donations. So on the screen right now is our poster they may have seen around town. But it has a QR code on there and an email address and an address to send to your donations to the Thunderbolt Area Federal Credit Union in care of the Millville Rescue Squad Alumni Association at 1601 Cedar Street here in Millville. And we are, like I said, still raising the last few dollars for our plaque. The final payment's due on June 17th, so we'll be able to make that payment. We'll be accepting money in the day of the event, so you can bring out cash or checks then as well. Anybody have any closing words or anything else to say before we shut
we
it down?
could spend 2 or 3 more shows just talking about the Rescue Squad.
Absolutely.
Back in the
Good
day.
times there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of good times.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm sure we've heard it, but I want to thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a volunteer and being my friend and being my co-member at the Rescue Squad and leading me. I'm the youngest one sitting at the table right now. It's kind of odd, but I enjoyed every minute of being a member and wish we were still doing it somehow, some way. But times have changed, but we're still together and we're still going to have our
We still
friendship.
have memories.
Yep, and definitely we'll have our memories. So I thank you for joining us tonight, and hope to see you on Saturday, June 15th at 3 p.m. at 500 Columbia Avenue. Thank you.
This has been a QBC television production, in association with our partners and sponsors. QBC broadcasts on Comcast Cable Channel 22, and live streams its programming on Facebook and YouTube. All rights reserved by Quinn Media and QBC, programming that serves the South Jersey market.